Welcome to another exciting class on Introduction to Psychology, and the specific subject that we are looking at is biopsychology or biological psychology. And last class we were looking at we started looking at sensory and perception, and we specifically looked at sensory function and processing. Now today we are going to look at perception, and we are going to look how do we perceive things, how do we interpret things, how do we feel and know things. This is your host, Dr. Tulipo Mwenfumbo. Remember to like the video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Remember, this program is brought to you by Mukuba College of Education and Copperbelt Institute of Health and Social Sciences. You can register in any of our programs. We have varieties of programs, but in the Department of Psychology and Counseling, we are enrolling for January, March, June, and September intake. And we have certificate in psychology, psychosocial counseling. We have got a diploma and certificate in paralegal counseling. We have got a diploma in psychology and counseling. We have got a diploma in teaching methodology, and we have got bachelor of psychology and counseling. You can contact me if you are interested or you want to register and get a qualification and a professional qualification in any of these programs. You can WhatsApp me on +260 976 1812 53. +260 976 1812 53. Now, let's look at what is perception. Perception is a process by which the brain interprets and organizes sensory information from the environment to create a meaningful and coherent representation of the world. So perception is a process that it happens that the brain will be able to organize and interpret the information that is taken, and also that information, how you relate with it to the world. It is the way we make sense of the stimuli around us, including sight, sound, smell, taste, and texture. So now, the difference between perception and sensing is perception, you interpret in a way that with that you are going to understand it with the environment around you as the or with the world. So it is the way we make sense of stimuli around us, including sight. So the meaning. So in a sensory, you may just know, but in perception, you have to understand something. You have to perceive and to interpret that in the way the world the world agrees to your interpretation. For example, if you have been told this color is green, so the senses are going to the senses are going to detect that, process it, and bring it. But for you to bring it out, or for you need to have the complete meaning, and for you to be attached to that comes where now perception comes in. We may understand it as we move on. I know you may not understand better, like you may not get what I've said, but as we are moving, you may be able to understand. Perception involves sensory input, which is information from our senses, such as light, sound waves, and chemical molecules. That is sensory input. Then there is also what we call processing, sensory processing. So the brain interprets and organizes the sensors into the information. Then there is interpretation. The brain gives meaning to the sensory information based on past experiences, expectations, and context. Now, in sensory, you may just know something, but the interpretation is going to come through perception that is going to be based from your experience, context, and expectation. So there are types of perception. There is what is called sensory perception. The sensory perception interprets the basic sensory information such as color, shape, or sound. So that is a sensory perception. Then we have got a cognitive perception. The cognitive perception, this is the high level interpretation of sensory information, such as recognizing objects, people, and patterns. You may know that this is a person, but what is going to tell you to that this is John? It is what is called cognitive perception. So the sensory perception is going to tell you here is the person, and it is going to tell you this is the person. But for you to recognize now that person, you're going to use what is called cognitive perception. And it is the one that is going to help you now identify that particular person by name. Then there is also what is called social perception, which the interpretation of social cues such as facial expression, body language, or tone of voices. So the social perception, there is we are influenced like facial expression. You may find that the interpretation may differ now because of your society and because of the influence of the society. You are able to interpret them accordingly to the way they are interpreted. And also same like the voice, you are able to interpret it according to the way you would want to interpret it, basing uh, on social influence. Now, let's look at what is called perceptual processes. So, perceptual processes, that is how do you interpret things? What process does your perception goes into for them to have the meaning interpretation? So, perception interpretation of sensory information to create meaningful experiences. So perception is the interpretation of sensory information to give it the meaning experiences. Sensory integration. When we talk about sensory integration, we are talking about the combination of information from multiple senses to create a unified perception. So, like you may uh, you may smell something. You may smell, oh, bread is smelling. And then there is the sense of taste. You are going to taste that bread. And that is what is called sensory integration. So you use the sense of smell and also you use the sense of taste. So it is a combination of different senses to create a unified perception. Patterns recognition. So there is also what is called pattern recognition, which is the identification of patterns and shapes in a sensory information. So in the pattern recognition, it is mostly perception comes by the experience that you have. Like you cannot recognize the pattern if you have not been taught or if you have not been yes taught about those patterns. So that is the so perception will help you to be able to recognize those patterns. The factors that influence perception, it's the same as sensory, that is attention. Attention focus on specific stimuli or task. Then expectations, prior to knowledge and experiences influencing perception. So when you look at if you attended the class on how to get the best out of this class, you may find that Sir Hendricks would tell you that you need to concentrate, you need to do this, you need to do this. So those are the expectations. And when we started this class, we asked you what are your expectations. So that is that will determine the influence of your perception. how you're going to perceive something will depend upon your expectation. So those that have got high expectations, they'll get more information. Those that have got less expectation, they'll get less. Then there is also context. The environmental and situational factors affected perception. So the environment, like you are listening to this lecture, then there is noise. So the noise is going to determine how you're going to perceive or how you're going to get the meaning of this information. The emotions will also affect or influence your perception. Emotional states influencing perception and interpretation. Then the cultural background, cultural norms and values will also influence your perception. So our culture and our values, the way we look at things, the way we interpret things from our cultural background, it will determine on how we are going to interpret those things and how you're going to perceive those things. There are theories of perception. Now, the first theory that I want us to talk about is the bottom-up processing. The bottom-up processing, it's the sensory information proceeded or processed in a hierarchical manner. So this is whereby the senses, maybe the eyes are going to see something, then it is going to be processed and then give the interpretation. Then there is top down, that is prior knowledge and expectation influencing there. So bottom up, it is where now you see something like in theology. There is what we is called exegesis and eigesis. Exegesis, that is where now you want to get something from the scripture. You want to get something, information from the Bible. And I just see it is whereby you have already influenced by a certain beliefs. Now you want now those beliefs that you have to go to the Bible, and the Bible should confirm. So that is what the perception is. There is a theory which states that people understand things by looking at them and then they give them meaning. Now, there are others that say, no, people have got the bias expectation which influences the interpretation and the perception of things. Then there is also Gestalt theory, which is the organization of sensory information into meaningful patterns and shapes. So, Gestalt, it is a theory that says that perception is organized through the sensory information into the meaningful. So after getting the information, then you yourself, there within yourself, you'll be able to understand that information, not influenced by anybody. So there is just that inherent information within a person, or uh, what the Carl Rogers says, that a person is inherent. Uh, there is that inner person who understands things. So nobody can influence you. So you just have to bring what is in you already. So perception is a complex and dynamic process, and it is influenced by variety of factors. Understanding perception can help us appreciate how we experience and interpret the world around us. So you may find you psychologists, people that are learning psychology and counseling. The reason of you learning about this, so that you may be able to know what is influencing this person. Is it the senses, or it is just other mention? So for more things, and for you to understand more detailed on this topic, I again refer you to the book entitled Foundation of Psychology. So for detailed notes, get yourself a copy of the textbook, or you should read in this textbook, and you are going to find the detailed information. Thank you for listening to this class or this lesson. God bless you. Shalom. Meet you in the next class.